In ELA world, we're going to do a little bit of the same take. However, here, I think what's most powerful is the ability to use images and push those images into the background. A little different swing on what we were just going through mathematically with relying heavily on clip art, but the images, I think, can really serve in a lot of ways to support the literacy skill attack you're doing and to help support the scaffold writing opportunities. So here's a quick activity in terms of imagery. So we want the kids to be real descriptive, right? We want them to rely on their senses and kind of draw from that. We could show mentor texts of people, of writers who use imagery really well. We want our kids to be able to write really descriptively. So here's a quick way, quick lesson, quick support in that mindset. So all I did here was take a quick version or inspiration from The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe. This idea that if I open up that wardrobe, I'm going and being transported into another world. So here I just create a quick scenario. Miguel is in his bedroom. It's at midnight. He sees a strange light pouring from the keyhole of his closet. He gets excited. He knows he's going on another journey. Picks up his journal, runs to the door, opens the doorknob, and boom, he's transported. But to create this initial setup for that activity, all I did was just take a Google image of a keyhole, pushed it into the background, and layered right on top of that in the text box with white text so it popped. And now when I open that door, because I have access to beautiful fantasy-based images, they can lend themselves where kids can simply come right on top of the picture and open a text box and feel that there's a sense of immersion into the picture. So now what do I feel? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I hearing and touching? All of that becomes a little bit more real and applicable to the writer as they are sitting on top of or within the picture. Instead of toggling between applications, going out, opening a picture, coming back to a blank white screen, here's a different take on that. So I can start writing right on top of this screen. And there's all sorts of beautiful images that you have accessible to you that really lend themselves nicely to the senses, which is what I wanted to evoke in this particular task. And all I simply did was put in the word fantasy clip art, I believe, or fantasy images, and I was instantly given a ton of pictures that I stayed on here for a while, and I just, wow, that's a cool one, and that's a cool one, and let me take that one. And also, some of this might be relatable to the kids in some of the video game that they do, and so there might be some relatability here as well. But just some real unique photo support and particularly this one. I thought this one was really cool too. And this is where I said, okay, I got to stop because I'll spend like hours on picking these really cool pictures. So, but you can just write so much here. And the fact that I can do that right on top of the picture helps with some of the idea flow and gives a sense that the kid is immersed within the photo so he can draw upon those experiences in his writing or her writing. Okay. So speaking of narrative writing, it's along the same lines. We don't do a whole lot of independent creative narrative writing. We might do that now, right? And play a little bit with that now, but they are asked to explore a narrative piece of writing and change an ending or change a scene or do some work with that text. It jumps from the text, but here might be an opportunity for you to rehearse some of those core elements of story elements. You know, the epic hero's journey, some of those larger writing themes that exist in this genre, or just discussing characterization or plot, climaxing and a turn in the plot, and problem resolution or solution scenarios, all of those story elements that exist. You might be able to rehearse in this kind of way. Maybe you build a sort of like a template or a background for them, and they add to what they're seeing to help them along the way. You could build a narrative story through photos the way I'm going to show you, and have the kids just write right on top of that photo so that they get used to working with different kinds of story elements and developing a story from beginning to end. The story I'm going to show you that I created is really primary and wrapped around a primary approach, but it serves its purpose for demonstration, which is what I wanted to show. So you get a feel for what that looks like. As I said before, I'm on a puppy kick. I don't know why. So here would be a typical title slide for that story about puppies. All I did was push the puppy into the background, full image, and opens up a white text box on top of it. Here's where a kid could put the title or whatever and start the story. But I'm going to retell the story as the way I envisioned it told, with the photo supporting. Notice here's mom and puppy. We're sleeping. We're nice. We're home. We're safe. Down the bottom, there's a whole white text box on each of these photos where kids can now add in the text to support that picture. Mom gets up. She realizes something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. She looks. Oh my God, there's a hole in the fence. My puppy got out. I don't know where she is. I'm looking through the fence. Where's my puppy? Oh my God, I can't find her. I'm very upset. So now you can start doing a lot with inner thoughts, motivation, dialogue, emotional writing, right? Let me go. Did you see my puppy, best friend? I don't know. I didn't see her. How about you, best friend? Did you see my puppy? She's gone. I'm just worried, sick now. I can't find her. What am I going to do? Meanwhile, puppy is playing beautifully in the field. She's having a great old time. Mom thinks, well, wait, let me go check down by the river. I know that she loves to play in the river. Let me call to her, see if she responds, if she's anywhere around the river. Wait a minute, I think I heard her. Not sure. Yep, I know I heard her bark. Wait, was that my mom? I know I heard my mom. I should not be outside of the yard. Let me start running back. Let me quickly run back, make sure baby puppy's there. Let me look, the fence, go back through that hole in the fence. Oh my God, there's my baby. She made it home perfectly. Bad puppy, bad, bad puppy. You better stay with me forever. So, of course, this is a very simplistic version of a story told through photos. And you can sophisticate the photos if you wanted kids to just write about particular scenes, settings, or create a mini version of this. And you can sophisticate the selection by simply putting in really good words like abandoned, or sometimes you could put in scary, and you will get amazing scenes back. We don't want to make it all macabre and scary, obviously, but the plethora of Time Life photos that are available to you are amazing. So you should take advantage of that maybe and have kids rehearse some of those narrative elements by simply having the photo to support their writing somewhere on that picture, on that page. So that was one idea for narrative writing. Another one is characterization and developing characterization through a number of places, right? So we talk about inner thoughts, and that's how an author often reveals and moves plot along and moves events in the story. What is the character thinking inside his head? Well, you can practice some of that. What is this character thinking as he's crossing the finish line? You simply can add a thought bubble. You can have multiple kids add thought bubbles, and then you can draw larger theme ideas or concepts from that about self-esteem, perseverance, a sense of accomplishment. All sorts of things can be pulled as a result of his inner thoughts as you add text boxes right on top of the photo. You know, what is this guy thinking about right now? What's in his head as he looks out at that sunset at that time? Is he troubled? Is he concerned? Or is he just thinking fondly back about some event in his life? What is grandpa thinking as he looks lovingly at his child? Is it, you know, a sense of nostalgia, a sense of where his family is now, what he has accomplished in his life? All sorts of things you can have just by simply layering on top of this photo thought bubbles or text boxes, and get kids writing, but remaining right in the moment on the particular picture. What is this little girl thinking about as she looks out into this very scary wood, right? Lots of things you could think about to drive characterization. You can also talk about motivation, right? Same concept, but what motivates this athlete to pull this other one across the finish line, right? What motivates these first responder workers to face something like that, the potential of facing that level of danger every day of their life? What's the motivation behind being an athlete and putting yourself in that level of risk and danger simply for enjoyment, right? What makes characters do what they're going to do? You can have a whole sort of conversation, or have kids write and add almost like a brain dump right on top of the paper, or in this case, right on top of the slide.
Good.
Traits and attributes, how many times do we have kids open up a notebook and create a web, and they write about or web out how a character looks, feels, actions, words that come to mind when you think about the character, physical attributes, right? All of those things, but we usually do that in a web. Here's a different take on that, okay? So 7th grade, they read Call of the Wilds, but you can apply this to any of the text you're reading or the larger novels you're reading. In this particular case, Buck, for those of you who taught 7th grade, Call of the Wild, Buck is a major character. He's a wolf. So all I did was Google searched, not Google searched, right within this slide, did an image search on Buck or a wolf. I forget what I did. Found one I wanted, stretched them out really nice and big on the screen. I then added the backdrop of Alaska, and then went in and pulled out the color of that particular clip art. Took a screenshot of this entire screen and pushed it into the background. And what I want kids to do is, instead of webbing about Buck, maybe they can fill now this hollow silhouette of Buck. So it's a little creative take. And you can layer in some conditions here too. Maybe you can give a condition that the larger the word appears in the silhouette, that particular trait is the most dominant in the novel, or the most dominant in the short story or selected piece, right? And then I can layer on additional things here too. Maybe I could put right on the right-hand side a quick table, which allows the kids to pull 3 of these traits from the silhouette, and then in a column next to it, provide textual evidence that really demonstrates how that trait applies to the main character. So just a different way, more creative way of doing that kind of character work, or webbing and attributes. And you could do that, straight across the board. Some of the images and symbols I pulled from the 6th grade novel of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, which is a story about, gods and has a lot of heavy Greek mythology. But you can do the same concept. You can either find a clip art and remove the color, or you can find black and white clip art and import that, push it into the background, and kids can write right on top of it. It's just a different creative way of doing it. And if you do all of that in an 8.5 by 11, nice way to print it out in the fall if you're doing this kind of work, then good take on portfolio assignments or bulletin board displays and things like that. But just a different way of doing it. Point of view, we know, is really big on the NJSLA. So exploring point of view and understanding what that is much more beyond first, second, third person, and really getting behind the idea of perspective and point of view. Again, you can push into the background a scene. That lion's point of view is very different than the guests on the other side of that wall of windows. So you can talk about varying points of view in that scene. Or in this scene, the pigeons have very different point of view from what that little boy has right now. One's having a lot of fun, one's flying for their life. So you can talk about all sorts of perspective, point of view there. Or even in a scene like this, where the Peace Corps worker has a very different point of view for his cell phone than from that child from that refugee camp who might not have ever seen a cell phone before. So you can talk about all sorts of point of view, perspective, writing there. And then setting and mood just is a no-brainer here, right? you can give selected scenes and have kids write about the moods that are evoked, or share this out and have kids just almost like a graffiti wall dump on top of this through word art or text words in varying font sizes and colors, the mood that's evoked. And then you can have a full discussion. Or they can create a meme, all sorts of creative things here. But the ability to push the scene into the background and never having to worry about it moving as kids interact with it is the drive here. And I just chose quick photos, but there are some amazing photos that you can play with and draw upon when you're talking about setting and just and mood and the moods that are evoked from the scene itself.